So I'd like to start off by saying I really like the Beyonce song that's out because it reminds me of like an early 90s dance club song. And it
Mm,
just like takes me right back. And I'm like, oh,
nice,
to
nice,
be in my mid 30s again.
nice. No, that's awesome, man.
I'm done.
Yeah, it has a throwback appeal to it.
Throwback vibe. Cool, man. So, all right. So let's kick off the discussion. So I'm joined with my good friends Ali and Omer, but we call Omer Big because back in college there were 7 Omers and a Omer, so everybody just got different names. Anyways, so this is like 15 years in the making. We've always wanted to make a video podcast. We could just never do it, but now I think we got our Jamaican bobsled. We got a Pakistani, you know, superhero. So I
Yeah,
think
man.
we have
Sanka,
to
you dead
we have to
man.
chip in. Exactly, because we're Muslim, we're Pakistani, we all have daughters, right? And on top of that, we're like comic book geeks. But what I like is we're nerds, but like we're like different versions of nerd. We're not like the same nerd. We're nerds in different ways.
I thought you were about to say we were the cool nerds. I'm like, yes, accurate. We
I
got the
don't.
cool
Those
nerds.
words don't go together, dude. Those words don't go.
That's exactly why they do go together.
Ah, that's too deep. I would think about that later. But yeah, but honestly, growing up, right, loved, comic books, but none of the heroes ever looked like me, right? And then all of a sudden, in 2014, you got the, solo debut of Ms. Marvel created by G. Willow Wilson and Sana Amanat. Sana Amanat, I think, was a Jersey Pakistani girl, so kind of loosely based, based off of that. In 2014, when this comic debuted, it was the #1 selling comic of that year. It outsold Hulk, it outsold the Amazing Spider-Man, and it even outsold, I'm sorry, Ali, it outsold your Batman. Can you believe it? Right?
I mean,
Right?
the buzz around it was so big. I used to tell friends I hadn't heard about that much buzz around an individual character making that much splash since
Mhm.
Kitty Pryde. And
Yeah.
then early on, after she got critical acclaim, the creators thought they were going to only do a few issues and then they'd be done. And then just they hit gold, and then they started putting her on like the Hickman run for the Avengers. Like they started throwing her in and they gave her big names. Even the first few issues, Wolverine pairing. So I think
Yeah,
that was a good demonstration by the editors and the powers that be that we want to put some stock against this, and
exactly.
clearly it paid off.
And the funny
But I
thing is
think
that
the response though of the character is the most surprising to me. Even when she came out, she had come out much later, so I hadn't read the comics till much later after that. But even when she originally debuted, I was just surprised of how much her character and her story really resonated with just the larger comic book audience.
Mhm.
I don't know. I've just found that very surprising. First of all, to introduce a new character, a female character, Pakistani, the whole thing, and not only that, have her story be so intertwined with that struggle of being an American, being Pakistani, Muslim, living in America. That whole journey that she goes through in her story. I just found it really surprising how it resonated with a lot of people.
And I was surprised at Comic-Con how many people were actually dressed up as Ms. Marvel. They weren't desi, right? They weren't desi. And I remember even like in one of the episodes of the comic books at the end, they kind of displayed some of like the letters that that the fans sent in. And one that struck me was like, a teenager was saying like, I'm not Pakistani, but all the problems that Kamala is going through, I go through the exact same thing. This kind of, really feels like a reflection upon my life. And so, just like you said, I was surprised at how big of a splash it made, because when this thing kind of, debuted and it hit gold, like you said, it changed the landscape of what a true, a mainstream hero could be, right? And I think immediately a lot of people went to Kevin Feige and said, when are you bringing her to, what do you call it, the silver screen? Like, when are you going to make a live action version of her, And you flash forward now, 2022, Disney Plus, we had 6 episodes, we all, saw the finale, right? So what are you guys' thoughts on
Pump fake,
the series? Huh?
pump fake. She not like I love X-Men more than anything,
Mhm.
and I don't think she's one of them. But I digress. I I really think about the cultural significance of Black Panther, right? And if you're Black from any origin, right, to watch that movie, I mean, I couldn't understand fully, but I could empathize, right? And it is a big deal. It is a big deal to be able to see yourself on screen or somebody who looks like you would represent you. Yeah, to mirror what Big was saying, it is, personally shocking because a lot of us that come from immigrant backgrounds, we grew up as the other, or if you're Black or Hispanic or whatever, right? But to get that kind of acceptance pre-show, like just with the comic, was shocking by itself. Black Panther was a big deal. So was Blade in '98, and a lot of people don't take it back that far, right? Because X-Men kicked off the modern comic book universe, right? And, it depends on how far back you want to take it, but X-Men 1 in 2000, but Blade was also a Black superhero. American context, very big deal. Still, being within the MCU, it's a huge splash, and I think I am also continually surprised about how people resonate with the character in the show format, in the live action format. It's her first time acting Iman Vellani, and like they nailed it. She nailed it. Like the accessibility of the character is readily apparent.
Yeah, 100%, and 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, that's what Jamaican Bob said, man. I mean,
isn't that the highest rated MCU like thing, like of all the shows and movies?
Maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
I
think I saw that somewhere.
Shocking, and it's like one of the lowest by volume watched shows, I think, but it's one of the highest rated MCU pieces flat out. Again, how much more validation do you need? I mean, no, it's great to see that there's an acceptance, and there is the criticism of it being a very like woke friendly agenda and being very cheesy. I mean, it's cheesier than a deep dish slice from Chicago, man. It is bad at sometimes, but like it's executed so well. Like, you watch Love and Thunder, you're like, cringe, right? But you watch this, you're like, oh, it's like TGIF on a Friday night when I was a kid. Oh,
yes, you're right. And so like I remember when I was watching Moon Knight, and when they showed Moon Knight in his full outfit, I was like, cheese level. But it kind of grew on me. These I think the cheese factor, because obviously it's for a younger demographic. They're trying to bring on a new generation, and so like when she does her light powers, I was like, too shiny, too colorful, too kitty. But it was okay. I think I was able to take the cheese. I don't know, Big. What did you kind of think of? I guess the cheesy aspect of it.
I mean, there are certain parts of it, of course, that were cheesy. If we get into the finale, there's a couple of moments that are really cheesy in the finale. But it all kind of, and that's the thing. In a 6-episode show, I think you can afford to have moments of cheese because you kind of counteract that with a lot of the heartwarming moments, like the scene at the end with the dad. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And just kind of way the whole story, the way it comes together, right? So you're afforded those moments to take some shots to try to do something, and it may come off as cheesy or not. But I mean, again, overall with the show, if we want to get into talking about the show, I think they've done a great job. I wish we got maybe 2 more episodes. I think they could have. I think they could have let them breathe even more. Yeah,
4 more episodes, like
do a 8 to 10 episode run would have been ideal, because I really got the sense that the creators of this show felt like they have this one opportunity, and they wanted to just throw everything against the wall and do every story possible.
And they did.
It really felt like,
every nuance, every hook. I mean, I'm talking like the intro, like when it was Urdu, and then it was Urdu and Hindi, or like even at the wedding where they put the 2 people's heads together, the bride and the groom. It's like, okay, do an Indian wedding, okay, cool, or Indian Pakistani wedding, that's fine. But to have that little detail, like, it's like.
So my wife is Cindy, and we did that. Everybody was bunking our heads. So when I saw that on screen, I laughed out loud. I was like, oh my God, we did that. And the Mehndi looked like all of our Mehndis, right? The Valima looked like all of our Valimas. And so what was interesting is that the different creators of the show, right? I mean, everybody had a say in how authentic to kind of make it, right? Everybody had a say. And I think it came across like very, very nicely. It wasn't like, and another thing I thought that was interesting is they're like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how Pakistani do we make the show? 13. We're going partition.
Not 11, not 12, 13.
Yeah, we're gonna get shoes stolen at the mosque. Like, I mean, they went for it. What do you guys think of all of that?
Have you guys ever had your shoes stolen? I've never, but maybe I go in like ghetto ass.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. And so,
Wow.
and Big, remember, we have a buddy that had size 13 shoes, and he got those stolen at you know, at the mosque.
Yeah, it
How
happens.
Pakistanis are walking around with size 13 feet? I have no idea, but he got those stolen. But you know,
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
yeah,
I mean, if we want to talk about some of the details, that's the thing about the show, right? They nailed the details.
Yeah.
You know, like the little, and again, there were so many little subtleties that I think if you're Pakistani, if you're Muslim, like you pick up on, you get like things at the Mehndi and stuff that you mentioned. I mean, even just the house, right? They have the Arabic calligraphy in the background, so it's very subtle. It's just kind of sprinkled in there.
But
And
sprinkled
it
so
felt
nicely.
very much like, yeah, very, you know, it was like the people who made the show, they knew what they were doing. They knew the little flourishes and stuff to throw in there for people to pick up on. And so, yeah, you know, I really appreciated all of that.
The calligraphy. When she's doing the reveal to her family, right? Which is another really great contradistinguishing Spider-Man. I must bear
Yeah.
this burden alone, right? You throw a Pakistani in there, the Indian and Bangladeshi person, like, yo, I'm gonna tell all my friends and my family, hey, just kind of keep it on the low. Nobody can. But the shot when she's telling it, and she's perfectly lined with the picture on the mantle, and it's lining up with the calligraphy. I think it said a lot. I'm like, what do you like? How picture perfect? Literally, the photography is like, the principal's doing a great job. Like,
yeah, for sure, exactly. And that was the thing. They captured the authenticity of being a Pakistani American, right? And like when everything that the mom yelled at, Kamala about, I've heard those conversations with my mom and my sister. You know what I mean? Like it kind of, I think, like hit home. I think like the last time I felt this represented was, remember Hasan Minhaj when he did Homecoming, right?
Yeah.
He did the comedy skit, and I'm like, oh my God, I understand every joke. I mean, I love George Lopez, I love Chris Rock. You can follow them to a point where you can kind of empathize, with their, with the cultural things that they bring. But when Hasan Minhaj, when he did the Homecoming, it hit on all fronts, like, and he's like telling his mom, forget what Naila auntie thinks, right? I'm like, wow, and this thing kind of hit home in all of those respects, like the Illuminantes. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so true. So
right?
true.
All those Illuminantes, right? And it's, oh God.
I never saw racism like Hasan Minhaj. And in fact, girls didn't want to talk to me. So I could only relate so much. I was like, you got a girl to talk to. Lucky you. Oh, woe is me. Like,
yeah. No, that's right. Let's talk about the music for a second. So, with the music, they had like, the new Pakistani rap. They had the old school ghazals, right? Like episode 5 or something that you mentioned, like it was like sepia tone. They're going back to like the 40s when they're talking about the tradition, right? My folks were watching this show and they got nostalgic, and I was like, man, like my son, which is 6-year-old, was like enjoying. He's like, wow, I love this Urdu music, I was enjoying it. Like it kind of hit on all generations, like they went for it, right? What'd you guys think?
Yeah, the music was again, from very early on in the episodes, I think she's walking through Jersey City, they're playing Coco Corina, right? They're playing that. I mean, so my cousin is getting married this weekend, and at her mehndi, they're singing Coco Corina. They're sitting there playing Coco Corina. That's like a key, like a key song. And then to bring that back in the finale again. So there's a lot of good things that they did in the finale that went back to the very big, so like to the beginning of the show. They put a nice bow on a lot of things. My favorite musical note in the show, though, was the a cappella version of Babia on the beach. Sajjad Ali, Babia, the acoustic version, whatever you want to call it, a cappella version. That one was struck close to my heart.
It's so funny. I think like the only thing they were missing was probably like Dil Dil Pakistan from Vital Signs. But I mean,
I was hoping for it because that's like the only song I knew. And I'm like, I was really hoping for it.
I was like, do Pepsi Pakistan. I'm all good. Even the Pepsi version, like
the music from the show could be its own Coke studio session, and like we would love.
They actually had a bunch of Coke Studio songs in there. So, and especially so right now, Pasuri is like the biggest song in Pakistani pop right now. That was in the episode when she went to Pakistan. Did I freeze again? Can you guys see me?
No,
Yes,
we're
we can
with
see
you.
you.
Oh, okay. Right. That one's a huge one. They had a number of them, right? Piche Hat,
Piche Hat,
Tu
yeah.
Jhoom was another one. So they again, every detail was so meticulous in what they decided. They knew where to tap into for the old songs, for the nostalgia, and then to make sure that they had a pulse on what's new in Pakistan right now as well, playing a lot of these Coke Studio songs, which are just, unbelievable.
Yeah, they really hit the show well on like XYZ axis. You had a multi-generational narrative that was great. You had an artistic angle that was like, it kind of reminded me of some of the early episodes of Blackish, where you have like animation and storytelling, and you kind of interwoven into the story. And you had a solid like coming of age story. And really, I think my personal take, the heart of the show is about the partition. The whole thing goes back to that as a root cause analysis in some sense. And this one of the largest migration moments in human history, right? And the visual characterization of it, they just completely nailed it. I mean, sure,
Yes.
The right person for the right job at the right time to illustrate the right thing. I was really shocked at how deep they went into that, because, okay, like if you read the comic, you're just peripherally aware. It's like, okay, they have a cultural angle. She's the daughter of immigrants. Cool. She's got to have this maybe inhumanish, super meta. She's an enhanced human being. All right, cool. They're gonna have a high school angle, but it's gonna be mature. Like, you can forecast all these things, but to root the show in a multi-generational story that goes back 4 generations, it's like, okay, cool. Tip of the hat.
Yeah.
That's nice. Time travel. Oh, time travel. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Real life historical event, like a little blending of historical fiction, like a magical realism, like 100 Years of Solitude kind of thing, or just like, here's reality, there's a little twist, and it's like, oh, that was good. That was really good.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, they completely nailed the partition angle, like the gravity of the situation. And one thing that they said in the show is that, every family has a sad story about the partition, right?
Yeah.
My parents included, right? My father was 6 years old, right? I've heard all of his stories. And to kind of see the gravitas of what they actually conquered artistically when they showed the scene, I was kind of like taken aback, like, wow, they're really going there. I was a little bit shocked.
Yeah.
Right.
Just the fact that they actually tapped into that. I mean, this is one of those things that I think people in America, they have no idea what the partition is, right? Maybe just you've heard of it or whatever, but even that, right? To actually talk about it. And it's like, I think, if you look at it as America, you're learning about this historical event through a Marvel TV show, which is unbelievable.
How insane is that? Yeah, it's like, how does the average American, do they know how huge of an incident, like, or a historical set of events the Russian Revolution was, right? Or even basic things like manga comes from the bombs being dropped, essentially. It's an artistic representation, just one vein of thought, right? And it's like, and especially my family, there's a lot of artists in my family. They come from Lahore, and it's happens, like half my cousins are artists. Their parents were like architects, and like my nani, she had a house that was a recording studio in the 50s, and it's a 200-year-old. It's just like an insane amount of like artistic tradition that just happens to like run in. And Lahore was the Paris of the subcontinent before the partition, right? And I think it could be a bias, right, of the show interweaving like that kind of art and style, right? Because Punjabi, hegemony, blah blah blah, whatever, right? But like it was part of the authenticity, I think, to be able to interweave the artistic expression so well. Mm-hmm. That encapsulates so much of that fabric.
Yeah, that's right. And Umar Beg, I'm putting you on the spot, dude. It's July 2022. Have you seen Terminator 2?
I've never seen a single Terminator movie in my entire life.
And 1 and 2. Oh, the reason I brought that up is because, like, for me, that introduced me to the bootstrap paradox, right? Kamala going back in time, and she's the one for her grandmother Sana that put those things, the stars out, so that she, completed the.
You have to. The loop has to be complete, right? She had to go back, because if she didn't, she never would have been born.
Yeah, but that goes against every rule that they've already established in the MCU, Whereas when you go back in time, you create a new
A variant,
new
a
offshoot,
variant timeline.
a variant timeline, right? So what's good? I mean, of course, there can always be an exception to the rule. And so, yes, although I've never seen Terminator 2, I've seen Back to the Future, enough
I
times
got
to
it.
know. But again,
1985A.
so I think that's okay, right? It's okay. I think kind of overlook some of the questions that may come up with that story, because I'm a sucker for any one of those stories where it was that moment where, it was you the whole time that was the reason for all of this. I mean, that was executed so well,
Yeah.
kind of telegraphed. I think I was kind of calling it, I think a couple episodes before. I think they really kind of set the seeds for that, right?
But like, they did it during the partition, during a train scene, right? And it's like with her dying great grandmother, which is fine. Here's what blew my mind: like, she got to address her by name, right? And then tell her, "No, I'm not," so Sana, right? What was her name? Like, and she's like, "Hey, it doesn't matter." I'm like, that was great. Like, gives you like, "Hey, Clint Eastwood, no. She's like, "No, Nadia, I'm not," like, that doesn't matter. Just shut up, kid. It's like typical patriarchal or matriarchal. It's like, shut up, kid. I don't care if you're descendant. Go help my kid.
Yeah.
That's your grandmother. Okay, fine.
Yeah. No, for sure. So how about, let's talk about some of the details, right? Like, for example, this I thought was pretty cool. If you actually check out the scenes when they show Hassan, right, her great grandfather, right? When they kind of show the village scene, he's actually dressed. Yeah, of Fuad, right? He's actually.
Can we talk about how big of a deal, that another detail, if we're just talking about the show, the music and this stuff, to bring in, Fawad Khan, probably the most famous, iconic actor in Pakistan, right? Or at least big name, big time actor, right? To bring him in to play such a pivotal character, to bring in Farhan Akhtar in the episode before.
Yeah.
I mean, this is everything for me as a fan of TV, movie, cinema, finally seeing like our stars, Bollywood stars, cross over. It's just like it's finally happening, right?
Yeah.
And I think they did a great job. They picked actually the right people. I think Farhan Akhtar is a great person to pick as someone from Bollywood crossing over to
even the actresses,
to the MCU.
The actresses were a big deal too. Like Nimra, Trails. Anybody like Trails is like, I didn't know about Trails. My wife watched Trails, and in between kids and meals and like me blah blah blah, right? And she would tell me about the stories, and it was like, I couldn't believe people are putting that of the storyline in any genre, in any country in the world, in an entertainment format. Some of the things they were tackling were just like next level. But yeah, to your point, Big, like they got serious heavy names, and they applied just their presence, applied gravitas, their skill, and the writing and the production quality, like great, perfect storm.
Yeah, and I think that's what made it believable. But I mean, not even there, like the character of of Aisha, right, played by that actress. Even Sana, the great, the grandmother, right?
The grandmother, yeah.
Yeah, because my wife was in Karachi for a decade, and so when she saw all of them, even up to the 90s, she goes, "I recognize all of them. They're all top grade Pakistani." So that so I think that's what kind of helped make it believable, and I think it toned down maybe the cheese factor for me because you had such big players in the game. I think that was really cool. But one of the details
that just adds to the authenticity of it, right? Like, hey, if we're doing a show that's deep rooted, in Pakistan, in this and that, right, to bring these heavy hitters from Pakistan that are famous there. And my big thing is like, for people who don't know, like, I think the message you want to let whatever non-Pakistani people know, that it's a big deal having these, an actor the level of Fawad Khan be in this MCU property like this. It like legitimizes everything. It legitimizes the story. It legitimizes, Fawad Khan, like all the actors and stuff as well, right? All of these people playing characters, it legitimizes them as well, because it kind of brings them to this new, it opens up all these new doors for them, opens up this new audience for them as well. and they get the recognition that I think, because these characters are resonating with so many people. People are loving, the Nani, right? People are loving Kamala's mom on the show. And so having them on, the dad as well, right? They have iconic, moments in this series, and they're getting all this recognition. And it's a big deal having these actors and actresses on the show. It's really, really cool to see.
Definitely. And so the little detail that I liked was so when they actually showed Hassan, the great grandfather, his Shavar kameez was actually red and blue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of foreshadowing the Ms. Marvel thing, right? Oh, I got my Ms. Marvel t-shirt on, by the way, right?
Oh, nice. I noticed that.
Yeah, and what I really liked too was what do you call it? When her necklace breaks, right? So the kaf in Kamala, right? That makes the lightning strike, right? Like
that was cool. But then when they did that dialogue back and forth about what her name meant, I'm like, dude.
Okay, I don't think that was in the comics, dude. That wasn't in the comics.
I was really wondering if the creators did that intentionally, right? And they never fully revealed, and like they were able to give commentary, but like even if planned or not,
yeah.
I mean, like where do you get that stuff from?
In Arabic, perfection, right? But ye kamal hai, right? Like we say kamal all the time because we say it hourly, right? And to think that what, it actually does mean marvel, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that was mind blowing, because it's kind of like in front of our face, and then you kind of see that detail, right? And what I really like
this whole time.
Yeah, and what I like is, so Kamala she's pretty much a Disney freeloader, right? She got her mask from Bruno, right? She got her scarf, from the Red Dagger, from Aramis Knight's character, right? Right.
Yeah.
Right. She got her Shavar kameez, from her mother.
Her
right?
mom probably stitched it herself, stayed up all night, and was like, "Hey, beta, I got you. Like, you
got
need to
you."
wear
She
this."
got her superhero name from her dad now, right? Right. Just take, she wants everything for free, man.
I mean, in the comic books, it shows a lot of, she's able to rally the forces, right? And kids of different backgrounds and stuff. And like, there was more of like an ethnocentric focus, or an ethno focus on the crowd that came at the end, right? But I think, the character's design is to be a champion of the people. And I think that's the idea, the essence of the idea is captured really well. Like, she's of the people, for the people, like the people's champ. Very similar to Muhammad Ali. Like, that's the kind of vibe I get from her. Like, the cops that stand in the way at the end. It's like, even in the first few issues, like, the cops are, they have kind of a quasi-antagonistic relationship with her at the end of the first major run. They're like, okay, you cool. You go ahead. We know who you are. Yeah. So, to rep Jersey City to the fullest, it's amazing. The localization and the desire to get out of Midtown and New York and just be like, this is the little pocket universe that we're going to apply ourselves in.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's an accessible pocket universe. Everybody knows of it, or on the East Coast, right? And it's not the one with the glitz and glamour. You won't find Spidey swinging or Devil kind of haunting the rooftops. It's like, hey, the suburbs. Mm-hmm. It is what it is.
Yep, exactly. No, definitely. And something that kind of tripped me out too, the last episode, right? So the finale, it seemed to kind of bring up a lot of different things, which were kind of tied back to the comics, right? So just kind of talking about the finale, right? Some of the things is she finally says "Embiggen," right?
Oh yeah, that was a great moment. Great moment.
And they show her stretchy, right? They kind of show her as stretchy as she is in the comics when she's like kind of saving the crowd from that flying, car that's about to hit them, right? Very, very, comic book-esque, of that. In the first episode, in the comic book series, once she gets, infected by this Terrigen mist, she awakens in a cocoon, and when she leaves the cocoon, then she actually is Ms. Marvel she actually morphs into Ms. Marvel, because that's what she thinks a true superhero is supposed to look like, right? And so in the finale, she kind of has a cocoon with Kamran, right? And after he escapes, when she kind of emerges from the cocoon, she's now officially Ms. Marvel. Everybody sees her for who she is, the superhero, right? So they kind of had that parallel, right? She's also sitting on the lamppost, right? You see Batman.
Iconic.
Iconic. You see Batman on top of a tower with gargoyles. That's his thing, right? But for her, lamppost watching over Jersey City. Boom. They completely nailed that, right? And what I thought was very interesting is, in this cocoon thing in the first comic book, when she emerges, because she thinks a superhero is supposed to look like, Captain Marvel, she literally comes out physically as Captain Marvel, right? In the last, after credit scene, they show her kind of swap places with, Captain Marvel.
I
Right?
was confused by that. Did she morph or did she literally transport and it was
No,
Carol
so the
Danvers'
thing though is,
character?
I think the angle that they're going for is, so Captain Marvel in the comics, he died in 1982, but he had the Nega bands, NEGA Nega bands, not mega bands. But they were able to not only do this hard light stuff, but they were able to teleport into the negative zone, right? So I think
Oh.
that Carol Danvers was in the negative zone and she transported herself into maybe Noor dimension, which kind of linked her to Kamala, and they swapped places. So when you see Carol, she's kind of awakens in the room of her biggest fan, and she sees.
And she's saying no. Like Carol Danvers is saying no.
Yes,
It's not Kamala
Yeah.
as Carol
that's
Danvers.
what I think.
No.
I also interpret it as that they swapped places. And then first of all, I thought like the 10 seconds that Brie Larson was on the show was probably the best performance that she's given as Captain Marvel.
Hey, did she change her hairstyle again? Okay, I'm just putting that out there.
She did, but I thought the suit looked good. I thought her hair looked good. And I just thought in the 10 seconds, she just really gave, like, I was like, wait, I think I like Captain Marvel all of a sudden. Because admittedly, I don't think she's been everyone's, favorite character so far, the way that she's been introduced.
Well, okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I think it was hard for the teams behind the scenes to put things together because they shot the scenes for what was the last one where they first introduced her when she said Burst Fury? Was it Endgame? Yeah, whatever it was, right?
She gets introduced, or she comes in at the end credit scene of Infinity War.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
No, it was. I thought it was like
Shang-Chi.
It was. We'll look it up later, right? But
yeah.
I read an interview where she was saying like we didn't even know what makeup to do. Like we didn't even know what the aesthetic was for her. Like because you shoot and you do your thing and then whatever gets put in post-op gets put in post-op, right? Like Robert Downey Jr. shot for Iron Man 2, he shot 2 intros in the airplane before it drops, and I saw the second one, the one that they cut, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's a good thing they didn't go with this one, right? So like I can empathize why it might feel disjointed to users or viewers, I'm sorry, and then digital world viewers, and then we kind of sometimes are like, all right, what, but there's a lot riding on the Marvels movie, right? Because I think Tiana Paris is coming back, right? Monica Rambeau,
Yep.
the actress playing her, and then Iman Vellani is going to be back, and then there's her, and then the newer dimension or the negative zone. Oh, if Thor landed here, he would be thought of as a Jinn.
Yes.
Man.
Yes.
Man.
Okay.
Like God, what a lie.
Okay. Can we talk about the DJINN? I know you love the spelling bee.
We got 2 minutes.
With a D in the beginning.
We got 2 minutes. We gotta do this fast. All right, go.
Oh no, we'll hop on another call. We'll do this one. Oh yeah, you're right. 2 minutes. Yeah, we probably can't discuss that in 2 minutes. It's gonna be a big thing. Well, actually,
look, Jinn is spelled Jinn. That's it. All right, it's just Jinn. It's not. That's it. There's. We're doing too much here. Okay, there's no DJ. It's not necessary.
Yeah, and the thing. Good.
I was gonna say I'm ambivalent on that school of thought.
Yeah. Well, so I was really happy, when Farhan Akhtar's character says that, okay, where he branches it off, he goes, these aren't the Jinn, the clandestines or the clandestines, right? They aren't the Jinn of religious text or stories. They're a different, version coming from the Noor dimension. I'm really glad that they made that distinction because in the beginning, when they first said, oh, I'm a Jinn, I'm like, Marvel, like, I was like, like, you're going to go there, right?
I know, in poetic license, I was like, let's see what they got. Let's see what they're going to do.
Yeah. Like it's crazy because we always grow up with you never hear stories of good Jinn, like, oh, this Jinn helped. No, you hear the crazy hardcore really bad stories, and the thing is
they're terrifying.
And the thing is I actually had to ask my folks, I'm like, is there a thing about Jinns and humans and hybrids, right? Like, is that a thing? They're like, no, that's not a thing. And so that kind of bothered me a little bit. So when they kind of separated out, I was like, Thank you, thank you. You know, like, all right, different dimension, but not the jinn that every Pakistani, you know, fears kind of thing. You know, I was really glad that
Yeah.
they branched those two things.
Yeah,
Right? 'Cause I thought it would have been doing too much. It would have been too much for me, you know?
yeah, Wu Tang Clan ain't nothing with.
Yeah.
Okay. So, guys, one other thing I wanted to kind of bring up. So I didn't really notice this, you know, but when they're actually showing that ancient temple where they get the bangle, right? Not really a churi, it's a bangle, right? Um,
The
I didn't
kara.
notice that. Huh? Yeah, I didn't notice it had the 10 ring symbol on the floor, right? So, right. So, I mean, I think they're gonna give this thing. I think, Babe, you had mentioned before, like some of the shows didn't have much connective tissue at all, but I think for this one, they're like, we're gonna connect the dots all over the place, right?
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
that theory from a friend. He said like it basically is going to tie into Shang-Chi, and
Yep.
you know, if the dad in that narrative didn't age, and how old are these people from the Jin?
Yeah.
I mean, you got the negative zone coming up. It's like, you know, there's so much. Even I forgot I was watching an instant replay. It was a little bit of a tangent when she puts on the bangle, and then like the camera flips, and you go into the purple world, and you see just white eyes. Like she was like in the Jin world, and she came out. I'm like, oh,
I
but
love
I
that.
think the writers. So Feige said there's a plan for Phase 4. One of the people associated with Marvel, I was reading like the soundbite kind of news article saying like Phase 4, the beginning of it, it really it feels like a reaction to Endgame and
Hmm.
all the essentially trauma or effects that come along with it.
Okay.
Like it's I think we have to as viewers we just kind of say, okay, you know, they have a plan. They knocked it out of the park for like 12 plus years now, whatever it is, right? 2008, 10, whatever first Iron Man was.
Yeah.
Go ahead, big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2008.
No. Again, my big thing is that, so kind of like just how I was saying earlier, that kind of really surprised of how popular Kamala Khan the character had gotten in the whole comic. You know, how basically, just from an audience standpoint, she became, to me, surprisingly like this popular new character. They've also positioned her and this show as a very critical
Yeah.
juncture in the entire MCU. So they've connected her to the current MCU completely, right? She's a fan of all things MCU, this and that. And then just the story is a connection to, you know, the previous phases, you can say, with the 10 rings, right? That has the Iron Man connection. And now she really is the jump off. And I can't believe we haven't even talked about this until now, is that, I mean, she is the first mutant. I think it's no doubt that that's what they are doing. That's what the line at the end of the show, your blood has a mutation in it. They played the X-Men theme.
They played the
That
X-Men theme.
they
So Ali,
they
did you know
they
that?
are
Did you know that?
making her
That they played
they
the
are
X-Men
making her
theme.
the first mutant. Yeah.
Okay, I had to read about it. I know it's like a dagger in my heart because like I watch when the kids are asleep, right? So then it's like a mute with subtitles on, and I was like, I'm listening for it, and I couldn't hear it, and I got to go back and watch it. But I wanted you guys keep talking. There was a theory that my friend Lewis gave me that I really wanted to kind of put out there. But you know, connecting he said to me like literally last night, connecting many pieces that connect Earth to mutants to the cosmic element. Just like Big saying, she sits in the middle of all that. Yeah, he was saying that my friend Lewis was basically telling. I was trying to find it on my phone, but you know, the whole Kree and mutant connection. Like, if they're an offshoot, then you know, characters she can connect to Shang-Chi, and then they can have this huge, like, just rainbow bridge of possibilities that they can do
Yeah.
anything with.
So the other thing that I wanted to say is, and again, talking to about how she switched places with Carol. I think that also goes back and links to Shang-Chi, because what is Carol doing at the end of Shang-Chi, right? They're saying that the 10 rings is kind of like a homing device, or there's like a beacon, right? It's like a signal. So isn't she off in space, like searching for this symbol, or sorry, the
homing device.
the signature or whatever that
where's it
the
sending it?
homing devices, yeah, sorry, that the 10 rings are giving off, right? So it kind of connects into that as well. So it's possible that yes, she's maybe in the negative zone, and now that Kamala has her bangles, something goes off, and boom, now she's switched places. So I
Another
think this is
artifact.
how you This is how you bring Shang-Chi back into it. This is how you. I find what I'm actually kind of now confused about is, so I kind of see how they can tie in Kamala to Captain Marvel, to Shang-Chi, but where does this leave Moon Knight, right? Is Moon Knight a complete offshoot, one-off character? I don't see any sort of tie-in to Moon Knight to the universe at this point, when it seems like they're going above and beyond to make this show, like a connecting piece to so many other things, to mutants, to X-Men. It's going to happen. We're going to get it. They are retconning Miss Marvel's character to be a mutant, because I think that's originally what they wanted,
It is.
in
It
the
is.
very
They talked about
beginning.
it. They did. The
Right?
writers, or the creators did talk about it. But I'm not holding my breath. Right? Like X-Men, August '91, Jim Lee, Toys R Us. Buy all 5 variant covers in a plastic case. That was like my major introduction to comic books.
For
I had
sure.
an old X Factor issue. Like I've been diehard X-Men fan for like decades at this point,
I'm-
right? But like I don't think they're gonna do it.
See, here's the thing. So, okay, because I've been out of it because dealing with COVID or whatever, so I haven't been able to listen to any of the regular YouTube nerds that I listen to. But I watch not whoever, right? So I still want to kind of dive deep into it to get other nerds interpretation and stuff. But I rewatched the finale, knowing that at the end that they reveal her as, okay, hey, you have a mutation in your blood.
Mm-hmm.
And it the episode actually kind of mirrored an entire X-Men thing. Okay. I totally interpreted when Kamala puts Kamran in the cone, and now they're discussing, hey, he's saying, hey, they are never going to accept people like us.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Okay.
That was layered,
And so,
right?
right. And so is that a Charles, and a Magneto
Martin
moment?
Yeah, Malcolm Martin
right?
there. Yeah.
Kind of like just so like, was it an entire X-Men contained, themes in that episode, kind of knowing that we're going to bookend this with the reveal that she's a mutant. So there was a lot of little things in there that I was like, oh my God, they're doing X-Men.
Yeah.
This is happening.
That was more meaningful to me personally than like, oh, you got a mutation in your blood. I mean, that would have been cool for me as like a big reveal, like if I didn't have it spoiled. But
Right.
like that little banter back and forth, ooh,
Yeah.
that cuts across so many,
And then
experiences across so many different kinds of people in, especially in America.
And then if you have damage control, right? Damage control is they're using drones to hunt people with powers. How else do they find Kamran? That's the Sentinels, man.
Yeah.
I thought
Right?
of the social commentary, like, Elon Musk talking about like you can program them to find somebody with facial recognition software and just like hone in on that one person and kill them. He was saying that in an interview. I'm like, accurate. That'd actually be kind of easy, probably, right? And then that's what they're trying to do. But they shoot at them at the second story, but the Circle Q at the bottom floor blows up. I'm like, come on, man. If somebody's not even gonna have a heart attack and somebody can't get married, like what else is gonna happen?
Yeah. But so a little fun fact. So in the comic book, she's an Inhuman, right? Because what do you call it? The Terrigen, the Terrigen bomb creates Terrigen Mist, because she has Inhuman DNA. She the Terrigen Mist, what it does is it evolves the Inhumans super fast. So instead of it taking time, boom, they're super evolved, and then their powers shine, right? But what's interesting is that a little history for the Inhumans, right? The reason that they had to why they really had to focus on Inhumans is because at that time they didn't have the rights to Fox owned the X-Men, right?
I was biting my tongue. Screw you, Disney, for not giving X-Men
so they had to push the Inhuman agenda, right? They had to kind of erase X-Men from everybody's minds, and they had to replace it in its entirety with the Inhumans. But obviously now they're under the same umbrella, they have the rights, and like, okay, you know what? We bring X-Men on full force. Inhuman in the comic books because we needed to go to that direction at that time. but right now we full X-Men, mutants. Let's do it.
They did IVX, sucked. They did the Inhumans show, it sucked. My brother-in-law tried out for, I think, a character like Diwaz, I remember, the Grace King character, the Inhuman. And I was like, yo, bro, you dodged a bullet.
You know?
Nothing against Anson, and all the rest of the cast. Like, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
But I will say, they had a limited, they had a few issue run where they had a great writer and artist, and they had Kang the Conqueror. And Black Bolt and Medusa's son turns out to be Kang, or the inheritor of Kang's powers. And like, I mean, that's sorry, spoiler, whatever. But like the art and the story was great. I won't ruin the ending. The ending was also like, oh, the heartstrings, because we're all parents. But like, I recommend that. But through that, well, I mean, Top Brass on record saying that if you have this cash cow of intellectual property, and you have this one that doesn't give you the margins, right? They say business is about like increasing throughput or like decreasing cost, right? Like, or sum it up in one word, margin, right? No margin on X-Men, tons of margin on Avengers. Let me just talk about Avengers for a second, right? The big A everybody loves, right? Complete joke when they rebranded them and put Wolverine and Spider-Man. They weren't some B team, right? Like the first Iron Man movie, it's like, Iron Man, really? Demon in a bottle, that was like in the 80s. What do you guys got? RDJ puts on the suit, it's like cash cow, right? And it's just like, we're going to produce it. Because nobody wanted to take the bet. And like the rest is history. But yeah, they took the beauty of what's happened to a true comic book fan over the last decade and a half, right? Is they took B team characters and they just, because X-Men was such a cash cow in the 90s and early 2000s with the movies, and they gave them great writing, great talent, great production quality, and they had some of the parts planned out. It was really a confluence of a lot of different things. Even during like early press releases, like Feige's like, one day we're gonna have all the characters, not the X-Men characters, like all the Avengers under one house, and it's like the vision. It take forever, and he was an assistant producer on the first X-Men movie. Homeboy hung in there. He was in it to win it.
He was in it to win it.
Protect this man at all costs. Protect Feige.
Protect him.
I mean, Big, you said it once. Is Feige's the only one that can make a grand cinematic universe? It's like, you know what? Here's my rant.
Yeah.
Love or hate Snyder, visual director, Big. You always say it like that. I completely agree. You give him a script 300, go make boom, it's great. But he had the cues, right? So like, Watchmen, same thing. Amazing. Change the ending. The message is the medium. It works better that way, right? Great, whatever. The Snyderverse is bonkers. But the thing is, you gotta be consistent, right? So if you're consistently crazy, man, like Jim Lee did some comps for the original Snyderverse, where like Lois and Bruce had a baby, and Darkseid came into the cave and like just wrecked stuff. The story is like a 3 or 4 part movie. It was nuts. But if they would have stuck with it, if the suits didn't meddle, I don't care if I never have a job with you guys, because your stuff sucked, what you did to hit the whole universe. I think it would have been a lot more respectable because you just would have stuck. The Snyder cut, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, love it or hate it, it is consistent. There's
Yes.
a vision. You let people go all the way through.
100%.
You go all the way back to Miss Marvel, right? There's the vision. They let it go all the way. They didn't. They might have meddled. We'll never know, because it was just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. But so
it's a shame. We could talk about the fall of DC, EU, and what happened there. Maybe another discussion.
I would love to do a video on that, though. That would be awesome, dude. What do you call it? So I'm really hoping that in this, I think it's Earth 616 in the MCU, but I'm really hoping that mutants have always been there. Professor Xavier mind wiped them, and then this is our little lead in, and then it's going to be this discovery. Maybe Kamala will go to Xavier's school, like you never, like they have all these
like America Chavez kind of doing this at the end of Doctor Strange.
Dude, yeah, they can go for it.
I want to stop ring.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? I think they have positioned Miss Marvel as the character that's going to lead into X-Men.
Yeah.
And they can go exactly into that story, right? She could be the first student, right? Xavier could reveal himself to her.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've been hiding here this whole time, whatever.
I heard, speaking of X-Men and meddling of studios, I heard Cable and Deadpool were supposed to be in Doctor Strange too, but they weren't.
Oh, that would have
Yeah.
been so. That would have been.
And another person that was supposed to be on, or could have been on the council, Illuminati, Balder the Great, like, you know, I think the bigger dude from, like, you know, Thor's homies, like, you know. But like, but Cable and Deadpool, I mean, a Deadpool cameo would have been like,
Oh.
I was reading something from like somebody working on Deadpool, as a writer, producer, and he's like, yeah, Marvel's left us alone. Like, we're doing what we got to do, and they've been supportive. It's like, all right, there's hope, everybody. And then I think that's, not to be drab about it, but that's just good management.
So the way that I kind of look at Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness, I think it was a great Doctor Strange movie, not necessarily a great multiverse movie, right? Where I think there's a lot that they could have done that they didn't do.
But, it was a great Wanda movie. It was WandaVision Part 2. Straight up. I mean, the story arc was about her. Like, he just damns more of a soul ever, right? Like, I don't feel anything for that. Me and Big talked about this. Like, I don't feel anything for Doctor Strange. Like, this smart guy, oh, Christine married somebody else. Here comes Charlize Theron. Hey, girl, hey. The end, you know, he still gets with somebody that's, you know, you go watch a Jordan Peterson video on dominance, hierarchies, and mating. Like, you know, he gets somebody on his level that's doing his thing. I know, I went there. But, but it was a great redemption for Wanda and the trauma of losing children, right? It's a proxy, but, you know, whatever, right? We're rooting for Wanda, like, burn Kamar Taj down, burn it down, like Sicario, kill him. I swear, the first time me and my wife watched Sicario, we're like, kill him. The kid, wife, everybody, right? And then he does it. It's like,
What did I just watch? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, definitely.
But the things that we couldn't forecast, the details that they gave to Miss Marvel throughout the 6 episodes, right? You can't say do it. You never would have even conceived they would have went that far. Even with the intro, the sepia tone, like the switching to Urdu, the color, the music, you can't be like, I hope they do this. The bar is like underground, and then the bar is now sky high.
Sky high, for sure. Yeah. For sure. And then let's talk about Iman Vellani for a second, right? Because it was very interesting. In one of the interviews, what she said was pretty interesting. She said that, yes, Kamala Khan, she is Muslim, she is Pakistani, right? But what sets her apart is the fact that she is a Avengers super fan. She's, immersed in this nerd culture, right? And she get superpowers. A person that always wanted superpowers actually gets superpowers, which is very different than the normal narrative, right? Where a person, I know, Peter Parker, radioactive spider, like all these superheroes, they kind of get it unknowingly. But here you have a character that always wished for it and actually got it. That's what kind of sets her apart, right? And I thought that was kind of a interesting angle. Muslim Pakistani, that's what she is. But she is actually a superhero that wanted the mantle, that's now going to discover, well, maybe this mantle is too heavy, right? Maybe, maybe my life is going to change in ways that I didn't want, right? Because that was a big thing in the comic books, right? So
it was a big thing in Spider-Man too, choice.
Yeah, choice, right? And then so what was very interesting is like, going back to, this comic book right here, right? When she emerges from the cocoon, she polymorphs unknowingly into Carol Danvers, because for her, that's what a superhero looks like. A superhero doesn't look like her, right? Doesn't look like her.
That's a lot of like post-colonial self-loathing.
What's interesting is that, in the comic books, that was kind of a big deal. And then she morphs into her own body when she kind of feels that, no, I actually can be a superhero. Did you guys get that sense in the show? Because in the show, she does have that line saying, well, hey, it's not the brown girls from Jersey City that go saving the world, right? But did you kind of feel that it's kind of this inferiority complex, like, me?
I looked for it, honestly. And I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay.
But I think it's answered at the end when she goes through her like maturity process, right? She's like, just another label. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, great writing. If it existed, I think her character came to grips with it, right? And it's a question I asked myself watching the show, because people without watching the show, like Muslims now, right? like we don't need validation and blah blah blah. It's like not about validation, it's about representation in one vein, right? And I kind of wondered, am I watching this because I have elements of that within me, right? Like I need this, I need to see myself up on screen, or like when I watched it, it was the emotion that washed over me is it's unreal, because it's just I still daydream like I can fly in the clouds. Like in the first few minutes of the first episode, it's like somebody just kind of whizzing off, and it's like it's not. I think that's one of the reasons why she's so popular. To Big's point, like I think everybody identifies with the brown girl from Jersey who daydreams way too much,
Yeah.
right? And if it exists, you kind of work.
Oh, okay, Ali, I think
It's not. It's something in my own head of the construct. Sorry.
Yep. Sorry, you froze for a second, but oh, sorry. I think it's my internet connection that's unstable right now. I think my son's playing Roblox.
You should be asleep.
Sorry.
So really quick to answer your question, Omer. Yeah, so I kind of didn't get too much of, okay, yes, like she has that doubt of it's not the brown girls, who are the heroes, but I don't think they tapped in too much of what she feels the ideal is either, right? Yes, I think she looks up to Carol, to Captain Marvel, but there's no, I mean, they have that one scene early on in the episode. I think she's in the locker room. She's kind of like, embarrassed or whatever, as a teenager would be like. So they touched upon it, but I think maybe that was it. But what I liked about it is at the end when, yes, like how you said, she gets pieces of her costume from everyone, right? That is kind of like her own way. It's like as the show went on, she got bits and pieces from all of these important things around her, right? Something that her friend gave her, fabric from Pakistan. Then finally her mom puts it all together. Her dad gives it. So she is uniquely like, this is me. This is, I am a product of what is around me and what makes me up, right?
Which is almost like in some sense against a lot of mainstream American narratives, like the rugged individual going out, like like Spider-Man's on his own. End of No Way Home, he makes his own costume. He has no family. MJ does not remember who he has. Doesn't have Ned. He's going to go out web slinging and go try and stop people from doing bad things. That's very Americana, right? And there's a lot of strength in that, right? Her thing is like all my friends, like it's the best kept secret, not secret in Jersey City who exactly Miss Marvel is, right? Like everybody knows. Come on, are you kidding me? Like Damage Control can't pick her up.
Yeah.
No, and you know what? And it kind of goes against that trope of, in a Desi family that your parents are always against, the wishes of the child's dreams, right? That's the classic story. Oh, I got these strict parents that they won't let me do this, whatever. Bend it like Beckham, whatever you want to reference, right? But this is the complete opposite of that, right? Where in the beginning, of course, her parents are, hey, we don't trust anyone else, right? And then they come back around and they say, we do trust you, right? We trust you, we support you. And that's the other big thing about the show that I thought, a lot of the little touches, right? Again, with the brother, right? Pakistani guy marrying a black girl, right? Just a subtle little thing that just shows, like, I think the old trope of, the old generation of Desis being so, against a lot of different things or so oppressive that, I think more modern day people, really that is truly like a way of thinking in the past.
Yeah.
And I think that we've come a long way from that. And so the show, I think, also does a lot of that as well. And so it's just really like awesome to see that her parents fully support her, in her becoming a superhero. Like
it was cute.
This is great.
It was
stuff.
nice. It was nice.
It's really cute.
Yeah, and and it's funny because I think us as comic book fans, I think we kind of always had our heads in the clouds, right? So you guys know I used to draw all the time. I was in class drawing, my head was always in the clouds, right? Kind of a thing. So I could kind of relate to that angle, right? And like what you said, kind of big, like Pakistani parents, they kind of they have a set path for you, and if you deviate, they're like, what? Like I was a good artist back in the day, so I was like, hey, maybe I'll be an artist in the future. And then I remember my mom's like, you sure you don't want to be an engineer? Your father was an engineer. She became, okay, I'll be an engineer. Like all those things really hit home.
I mean, in my 20s, I remember being in college. My dad looked at me, he's like, "You're just a useless daydreamer. You don't do anything, right?" I got my first job in marketing. You know what he told me? He was like, "So you don't actually produce anything. It's all just BS. You just flower something up and that's your job, right?" I have plenty of stories where he's like Red Foreman from that 70s show. I mean, it's just classic, right? I mean, that just a callback, right?
Yeah.
You contradistinguish that against a very American show. Like,
Mhm.
I watched a 70s show. I'm like, that's my dad. That Eric, that's kind of me. Like, yeah. And I have friends like Kelso. Yeah. I have friends like Fez. And it's like, yeah, that hits all the right notes, but it's a different time, a different culture, a different set of people and experiences. But it's like, there's some, I think Miss Marvel does that job really well, which honestly, I think surprises three of us. It hits these universal elements really well. Because for us, it's like, yeah, my parents say that those mustard politics do exist. Those elements of social awareness or not are real, right? But it's like a lot of people can identify with that. It's like, oh,
For sure.
But
nice.
but my thing also is okay, yes, we acknowledge that, yes, I think we've all experienced some level of that traditional, of your parents kind of wanting you to do a certain thing or whatever. But seeing a show where now the parents, they're they kind of come around, I think that's actually really something that we can all relate to as well, because I believe that's another thing. Growing up here, blending the two worlds of being American, being Pakistani Muslim, the whole thing is, I think we've all seen our parents come around on certain things, right? Where, if you, again, I look at my own parents and talking to them about certain things and realizing like, hey, that their thinking has come around over all of these years as well. They've evolved, they've grown and stuff as well. And like seeing that is actually something that I could relate to as well. So that trope of the oppressive traditional parents, like seeing them overcome, I guess, some of that and realizing that, hey, there is more to this world or whatever than just, whatever it may be. I think that's kind of cool too.
I think it was a great element to interweave in, right? And have the parents come 180. And then for me, when I honestly evaluate my own personal experience, like, did the parents come 180 or they just like come back to who they were, right? Because when you looked at Muniba, like,
yes, there you go. Yeah.
Like Bon Jovi, like, I want to take off and just like go follow him on tour. It's like rebel, right? And she was like, what? My mom's like this. I didn't know, right? And I mean, you hold on to something so tight you can't hold on to it, right? Like you push so hard, you end up creating the situation that you didn't want in the first place, right? But like it's kind of like a circular pattern, right? I think Big puts it very poetically. It's like, the parents came full circle, right? Well, the 180 expression, they came around the other side, right? But like really it came all the way back to who they were, what they used to do, and the cycle just continues over and over and all the way back to the great grandparents that they showed and how much of rebels, physically, like sociopolitically rebels they were, right? It's literally in her blood, right? So it's very fascinating to see all those layers with a common thread.
I think for teenagers now, and especially like I look at all of our kids and stuff, right? I think at some point, right, we're all going to have a generational gap, obviously that discussion with our kids, right? Our kids are going to be like, our parents do not get us, right?
Oh, already just there, man, with Gen Z at work, already there.
Just the way that we, with our parents, right, we realize, man, our parents don't get us. But as you get older, you actually realize that you're a lot more similar to your parents than, you gave them credit for.
Yeah.
And so 100%. Like our kids, I think, again, 20, 30 years from now, they'll realize like, man, all those fights and stuff that we had when we were teenagers and stuff, it turns out our parents actually do get, a lot of these struggles and stuff. They always did get it. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Just coming around to that.
There's a great line in Kingdom Come where old Superman's talking to Orion and he goes, it says, sons often become their fathers and you're looking more and more like your dad every day. And it's like, oh, Oh, you don't want to be compared to Darkseid, son. That's not a good look.
Nice, nice. Very good. Fun fact, there's hardcore nerds that actually paused where where Kamala, she opens the locker, and so she has 3 stickers. She has Iron Man, Captain Marvel, and Darth Vader. Fun fact, the drama teacher that taught Iman Vellani how to act also taught Hayden Christensen how to act. And so after Ms. Marvel became a thing, the teacher was super like Cloud9 saying, I trained Darth Vader and Ms. Marvel. How cool is that? That was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Wow.
It's great.
This was a lot of fun.
This
I
was-
think actually being able to prep on a next discussion would be actually it would be really awesome.
Show them the
So,
papers.
like, this was
Show them the
really
papers,
fun.
Omer. Show them the papers.
dude,
Like, this is what it
Oh, you
requires.
got a whole
today.
rundown. See,
I had
See,
to
you
do
had
that.
a
I'm like,
rundown. You didn't give us a rundown. You should have done that.
I had
no,
like
I didn't want to. I wanted authentic reactions. But yeah, great job, guys. That was
Definitely
awesome.
gotta
So
do this
we
again.
will see our fans on YouTube.